Hello, my name is George Clemens, and I'm proud to be your executive director here at Bailey Chase. So today we are taping a fireside chat as we are still not able to gather in large groups. And so we're pre-taping this on a Thursday morning, and I have about 6 or 7 residents here with me. Ashley is here taping, and I have asked for questions in advance. I've received those, and those are the questions I'm going to go through. So I will just go ahead and start. Question number 1. In your memo about independent living residents receiving visitors last week, are these visitors just family or can it include friends? So that's a good question. It was a little vague in the memo I sent out, but the answer is to have visitors in your home, in your apartment or your cottage, they need to be family. However, you could still visit with friends in our visitor zones that we have established. And the independent living visitor zone has now been moved inside, so there's some air conditioning there. But the answer is it should be family that are visiting people in their homes. Okay, next question. Is there an update with the Type A contract conversion approval with the Maryland Department of Aging? So I feel like, again, a broken record here because I keep getting the same question, which is a great question, but I have to keep giving the same answer, which is an inadequate answer, because the answer is I don't have a real update there. We're still waiting on the state of Maryland. I am told that the legal team of ACTS is actively engaged with the state of Maryland, which actually their attorneys, I guess that's how they're working this out, but ACTS is actively trying to get some response on this, but we don't have the clear answer yet. So there it sits. So we're still in a waiting pattern there. As soon as we do have that information, we will send communication out to residents, and then they will have the opportunity to get information on their specific situation and their contract to decide if that's something they would like to do or not. And there'll be that 90-day period once you get that communication. Once you get the information on your specific situation, you still have 90 days to ask questions, talk to others about it, talk to a financial advisor or family members, however you would like to handle it, and go from there. So again, we're still in a waiting pattern, unfortunately. Can you give us an update on the 2 employees who tested positive for COVID-19? So through our weekly testing, and currently ACTS has a strategy where we are weekly testing all of our clinical staff for COVID. Not every community does, not all ACTS communities do this, but not all companies do this. So I feel like ACTS has been a little bit proactive here and getting ahead of the game and implementing our own strategies to do this. So this is what we're doing. And it is the best tool that we currently have to help screen residents and staff from COVID, because occasionally it will pick things up. As we all know about COVID, you can be asymptomatic, feeling great, and yet you can be carrying COVID-19 and you can spread it to other people. So we did have 2 people test positive over a week ago, and I put out a robocall out about that and a memo about that. So in a follow-up to that communication, the Oak Ridge Terrace employee has now tested. They've all isolated. Our normal protocol would be if someone tests positive, those people who test positive, they isolate. Residents then are, if any residents are affected, we would do some contact tracing to see who might be affected. Those people are contacted, isolated if necessary, testing when we can as well, and then we also keep monitoring for symptoms. And the 2 cases, we had 1 employee who was in Oak Ridge Terrace and 1 employee in Willowbrook Court. The Oak Ridge Terrace person, once detected, had come in for our weekly testing. That person had actually not worked here for 6 days and or more. Has since passed the 14-day period, has double tested negative, and is now back to work. And the Oak Ridge Terrace neighborhood that was affected, and it wasn't all of Oak Ridge Terrace, it was just one neighborhood there. There's 4 neighborhoods. That neighborhood was in isolation. That neighborhood is now off of isolation. So things are back to relative normal there. In Willowbrook Court, that person who tested positive was asymptomatic and isolated, but is still not through that 14-day period. So that person has not come back yet, but they will have to have a double negative test before coming back, be medically cleared. Willowbrook Court residents are still in isolation at this point. We anticipate them coming off early next week. We did do testing. We don't have all the test results back. There's been a lag on getting test results back, as most people are aware of. But those results that we have received back are negative. So that's the good news, and everyone is asymptomatic, so that's the good news. So we're optimistic there. There's the update. Okay, question number 4. Will there be any more resident mass testing? The answer is yes. So ACTS has implemented a strategy for testing all clinical staff every week, and then non-clinical staff and residents once a month. So this is a self-imposed strategy that I've mentioned already that we are currently doing. So that testing will continue into August. It'll probably continue after August. It's just that the planning from 2.5 months ago kind of said, well, this is what we'll do through August. I anticipate that continuing, but at this point, definitely through August, and the next scheduled testing for all of residents is going to be the first week in August. We'll send communication out about that when we get closer to that date. Next question. So we read about the rapid testing machine in your memos. Do you have that yet? So this is exciting news. I had mentioned that there is a rapid testing machine. This is new technology that allows us to actually take a sample, run it through the machine, and in 15 minutes have your results. Right now, going through LabCorp and other labs, it's taking 14 days or more. So it's critical to get the results of your test. That's why we're testing. And when you have these lag times, it really almost defeats the purpose when it goes really, really long. So to counter that problem, ACTS proactively actually went out and bought 14 machines. And the company we bought them from says actually no other senior living community has bought these yet. You're the first. And then what happened is the U.S. government said, hold on, we need 7 of those machines. And so they took 7 of them, and now ACTS is only receiving 7 machines. The good news is Bailey Chase is one of the 23 communities that's getting a machine, and we actually received it yesterday. I've seen the machine. It's smaller than a toaster. It's portable if we needed to move it. But it's going to be housed here at Bailey Chase. It's going to be used by our wellness office. The whole program's basically run by a nurse practitioner, Penny Boyle. We haven't had training on the machine yet, so I anticipate us getting that training pretty soon, and then we'll put some communication out about when we've got this machine up and running. It's going to serve our entire region to some extent, and the purpose of the machine, it's going to help us. We're not going to use it for mass testing. It's not practical for those purposes, but where it's really helpful is when we have, say, a new resident moving in, need a negative test before moving in, because that could affect protocols, so we can get that kind of information quickly. When we have staff who took a vacation, they want to come back, rather than wait another 14 days for their results to come back to see if they can come back even though they're asymptomatic, we can get that negative test right away, and then staff can get back to work. So situations where it's really important to get a quick test, that's where we can use this machine. So we're excited about that. Other communities in our region will probably use the machine as well. They'll probably send people over here and we'll get their testing done here. But that's exciting news. Next question. When will the culinary HVAC project be completed? So the project, just to recap, is to replace the air conditioning unit above the kitchen. And it's a big unit that sits on the roof above the kitchen. And there's also part of that unit sits right outside of that building, and for those who would remember or have walked past it in the summertime, have seen the sprinklers on this big unit keeping it cool so it doesn't overheat, and causing a whole flood of water to go down the street and into people's cul-de-sacs. And I've had people say, hey, look, my feet get wet and I'm just trying to walk through here. And this has been going on for years. So finally, we're able to solve that problem. So the old equipment is gone. Cranes have come and removed it and put the new equipment back on the roof. So right now the project is moving along as scheduled. We anticipate the project being completed by the end of July, weather permitting. But it's moving along and we're excited about that. When that project is completed, there's more projects to come, and I'll be putting communication out about that as those projects come to fruition. But I'm excited because there's a lot of good things happening and going to be happening here at Bailey Chase. But more to come on that. Okay, next question. Can vendors who have been hired by residents be able to get tested at Bailey Chase? So currently, residents can only have, well, let me just back up a little bit. Residents have the freedom to hire extra help if they would like to, or extra clinical help if they would like to, housekeepers, those types of things. So residents can do that. There are some protocols for doing that. Even without COVID, if a resident ever wants to hire someone, the protocol is you need to let the business office know about it. Specifically, it would be Danielle is the person who's kind of overseeing this. Because there's documentation, there's forms that need to be filled out. And what happens is when a resident hires someone, even with the best intentions, you can hire someone who may bring tuberculosis into the community, or COVID-19, or may not have a great background check, but not everyone will check these kinds of things. So when it comes to staff, whenever we hire staff as a company into our community, they go through background checks, they take a drug test, we make sure they don't have a communicable disease, those types of things. Really, the same protocols would apply to anyone who comes on the campus and works here. So that's why we have these forms that kind of spell these things out. It's up to the resident to ensure that those protocols are met. There are some costs involved sometimes, like to pay for a background check and things like that. That's kind of on the resident. Now, if you hire someone from an agency, agencies will generally take care of all those things. They'll be doing drug tests on their residents. They'll be doing tuberculosis tests. I mean, not their residents, their staff. They'll be doing the background checks. So residents don't need to worry about that, but that's one of the advantages you get when you hire someone from, say, Home Instead or Bright Star, places like that. If you hire from, it's just someone who does housekeeping on the side, and you've known them for 25 years, that's great, and I'm sure they're fine, but we're still going to be asking to go through those protocols. So to kind of go back to the original question, who can come on board and can they have a test? Only clinical help at this point is who can come on board, or who can come into your home right now. So if you're wanting a housekeeper, we wouldn't call that a clinical person, or necessarily a high priority kind of person coming on the campus. So as we all know, COVID is still out there. It's in the news. You hear about spikes, you hear about cases. Like I said, we just had 2 cases last week here in Talbot County on our own staff. So it's out there. So that's why we still have protocols in place, and we want to limit the people who come on our campus to protect all of us. So non-clinical vendors are not supposed to be coming on campus right now, like housekeepers are coming into your home. And then those who do, if you want to get a test, if they need it, they will need a negative COVID test to be coming into your home. If you're working through an agency, that should be covered through the agency and should be verified. But if they're not working through an agency like that and you would like our Bailey Chase to perform the test, that is possible. There's a $50 fee to do that, and it's going to be up to the resident to take care of that fee. That can be put on their bill. but we do need to make sure people go through the proper protocols and have a negative test. I hope that answers that question. I think I said a lot of different things about that. All right, shifting gears here a little bit to some culinary questions. I grouped these by topic. Can we have breakfast food on the dinner menu? So as you probably know, a new menu came out. Yeah, is there breakfast food on the dinner menu? So a new menu came out, I think a week and a half ago or so, and we did away with the always available menu, and we made one complete menu that has over 20 items on it, and there'll still be specials and things like that, and so we have this new menu. Since that's come out, there have been some questions about, well, what about if I want to get bacon and eggs or an omelet or something at dinner? So that happens on some, like at a diner, that's a typical kind of menu. So our dinner menu is not really a diner menu. So we don't have those breakfast items on there. We still will serve breakfast at breakfast time and lunch at lunchtime, so if you would still have those opportunities, but not on our dinner menu. I will add that we've really had a lot of positive feedback on our new menu. So I'm glad to hear that. Next question. Can we have additional seating in our dining room for a group of 6? So we had one group of 6 set up, and then we had requests for an additional group of 6. So the answer is yes, we have added another group of 6. So if we have 2 larger parties who want to have dinner together, we can accommodate. Just call the dining room to make that reservation. Okay, last question that I have. Why are we getting rid of the meal coupon plan? So, let me just, for anyone who may not understand what the meal coupon plan is, there's a paper coupon plan that's been in place from Intergrace and possibly before it was Intergrace. It's been in place for a long time. And it's a plan, if you miss a meal, you can get a credit in the form of a coupon, which is a slip of paper that says, this is good for 1 meal. If you were to miss a dinner, you would get 2 of those. If you miss a lunch or a breakfast, you get 1 of those. And then I don't think there was a expiration date on these, right?
Mm-hmm. There was.
There was an expiration date. For what was the expiration date?
1 month.
30 days, okay. All right, so you have 30 days to use your coupons. And the new plan, so that's the old plan. The problems with that plan is it's just keeping track of things on paper and writing them down in a notebook, and that's kind of an old way of doing things, and it's kind of laborious. Another problem with that plan is it's not compatible with the new ACTS meal plan system that's coming here to Bailey Chase and is already in our other ACTS communities. So that's an electronic plan where you will get when we convert to that plan, you'll get like a little plastic card that has a barcode on it, and when you come in for dinner or want to have a meal, like a lunch or something, you just scan that, and then it electronically records that meal. And that way, everything is recorded and the data is all there and accessible in a very easy way. The old coupon system doesn't work for that system, so that's an issue. But another advantage is once we convert to the new plan, if you want to go to Chestertown, for instance, spend a day, enjoy the town, and then have dinner at Heron Point where we have a community, you should probably make a reservation first to make sure that would work out. But you could use your same card and they'll scan it there, and then it'll work in your meal plan and you could have dinner there in their dining room. Or you could go to Manor House and do the same thing. Or any of our ACTS communities. I just mentioned those 2 because those are relatively close. So that's an advantage with that. So that's why we need to convert from the old plan to the new plan, and that's why I sent the memo out that was really an addendum to our handbook. And now, while this isn't a question in my list here, I have had people ask me about an updated handbook, and we are currently working on updating our handbook. Once we get through our first revision of it, which we're getting close to being finished with, we're going to hand it off to some residents who I've basically talked to Ann Neary, the president of the resident council. Could you have some residents review the handbook? And so she's got some people in mind. I'm not sure who they all are, but residents will have an opportunity to review the handbook as well. We'll see if we need to make some revisions from there, and then, we'll do a final proofing, and then we'll be able to actually put it out. So it's a bit of a process, but that's coming. So with that, those are my questions. I'm going to ask my captive audience here. Do you have any additional questions for me? Yes, sir.
Yes, George. A couple questions. First question has to do with the surge that we're all hearing about with the virus. And right now, Talbot County is in a pretty good position in terms of the numbers. There's only a couple counties in Maryland that have lesser numbers. And given that, if we do have to go back to restrictions, are they based on what's happening in Talbot County, the Chesapeake region, or nationally?
So that's a very good question. The question is, given the spike in cases that we're seeing in Maryland, how would that affect our Bailey Chase specifically and other ACTS communities in terms of would we go back to, right now we're in phase 2, would we go back to phase 1, and would that be across the board for Maryland, all the Maryland communities, or would that be a little bit more regionally specific? Because Talbot County has less cases than, say, Montgomery County, Prince George's County, and those types of places. So the answer is ACTS is pretty committed to not going back to phase 1 if we can help it, unless we had a serious outbreak either in Talbot, like for Bailey Chase, in Talbot County, or even in our community. Then we would absolutely look at what do we need to do to protect everyone, and do we need to go back a phase, or even to phase 0 if we had to, if everything was just in chaos in a way. ACTS would look at it community specific. So if there's something happening in a whole other community that may be hours away from here, even though it's still in the same state, and yet we don't have that same situation here, our phases would be independent of other communities. And that has been the case already. So there are some communities in some states that are in different phases. So.
The second question has to do with the gatehouse.
Yes.
Which I think has been a good addition for several reasons. Is that going to be a permanent thing? And if so, will it be similar to what they have at Manor House, where there's a separate entrance that residents have something on the car they can just get right through, or a gate situation?
Yeah, the question is the gatehouse going to be permanent, and how does that work? So yes, the gatehouse will be permanent. We have a temporary gatehouse right now. It was in our plans to get a gatehouse. Once COVID hit, we needed a gatehouse right then and there. It's a big process. It might take 6 months to get a gatehouse actually installed and built. And I'll explain why in a minute. But we rented this temporary building and set up a gatehouse operation as soon as we could, and that's what we have right now. It's working and we need it, but it's inadequate really long term because there's no air conditioning out there, and my poor security guards are doing what they can to stay cool. There's minimal heat out there in the wintertime. You can really only get one person in this little place. There's no bathroom facilities. So the plan is to build a permanent gatehouse that would have all of those. It would also have some systems installed that would cover other emergencies. For instance, if a fire alarm went off in one part of our building, the gatehouse would be a place where that would show up. So security would be able to understand and address emergency situations. We also do a lot of other things at the gatehouse. We're giving directions to vendors or families if they're not sure where to go. Where's the gardens? I'm not sure. And then we can supply maps, and we can kind of show exactly where you need to go. Here's where to park, here's where not to park. All those rules that we have on campus, those can all be communicated from the gatehouse. So I have a budget for the gatehouse. A plan is actually starting for the gatehouse. I'll have more communication about it when I have something more concrete to share in terms of timeline, what it might look like, all those kinds of things. The Manor House gatehouse is, and I guess you've seen it. I was involved in that whole process when before here I was at Manor House for 6.5 years, and that's a great gatehouse. That's a model that we might actually replicate here, but we've done it in numerous communities, so we're at that stage where it's like, okay, what should this look like? The way it would work is we would probably have, I'm 99% sure, but not having a final plan in place, you never know. But we should have 2 lanes on both sides, gatehouse in the middle. There'll be a fast lane and a slow lane, so to speak. The slow lanes are closest to the gatehouse. So these are visitors, vendors, people who don't have a tag, and staff and residents will have a tag on their vehicle. So you could just go to the fast lane, and as soon as the gate detects your tag on your car, the gate will just go up and you just come right in. When you want to leave, same thing. So you don't have to really wait for a line of people to be processed through the security guard at the gatehouse. But so the slower lane is for those people who don't have that tag and they're visitors and that kind of thing, and so they'll go and they'll be addressed specifically by the security guard there. So
One more safety question. You mentioned the gardens, and of course now the traffic to the gardens is coming in through the gatehouse.
Yes.
Is that going to continue?
So I do anticipate that continuing. Well, the question is, will we continue to have the other entrances to the community blocked off? There's huge advantages to doing that because we can much better control who is coming and going. And when I first got here about 6 months ago at Bailey Chase, one of the biggest complaints I heard is people keep driving through the community, and I'd seen it myself. I've seen people walk through the community. So by blocking those off, we've been able to cut down on that extra traffic quite a bit. And we want to know who's on our community. And that's really the only way we can do it. So I anticipate those staying closed, those other entrances. I'm not 100% sure how that's going to work. But the way I anticipate it working at this point would be we would have another gate at these other entrances, but it won't be manned. But there will be cameras and microphones, so it's actually manned by the main gate. So someone could show up there and say, I'm here for so-and-so, and then the security guard could verify that or say, well, actually, this is a private community, and can address it from there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Yes?
I would like some clarification, excuse me, on, we were taking you back to the coupons. And I'd like to get that straight. Now, before you had, say, 30 days with your coupons, so that if you missed a meal, say on the 28th or something, you had about 2 days, according to what you had said, to use it up. Now, because you have someone come for a meal or you go out, then if you go out on the 30th and there are 30 days, what happens?
So the question is on the meal plan, what happens within those 30 days if you miss a meal, basically? It is a use it or lose it system. So you've got, say, 30 meals that month, 1 meal a day, and you can use them any way you want to in that month. So you can use them all for dinners. You can have up to 2 people come in as guests. Maybe you want to use one for a breakfast. Maybe you want to use 1 or 2 for a lunch, or maybe it's just a carry-out. Those are kind of the options you have, and you can kind of work that out over the course of the month, but you would lose it at the end of the month. It resets at the beginning of the next month. So that's how it works. All right, any other questions? Yes?
Soon, the buses and vans will be taking people shopping and stuff like that. Are we ever gonna get the vans and buses marked with our names on them?
Yeah, the question is, are we gonna brand our transportation with the Axe branding? The answer is yes. I don't know when. That's one of our projects. But yes, we will brand them. And when we start up, there is gonna be a couple of tweaks to the shopping shuttle, or the jitney, as we've been calling it. I think we're gonna call it the shopping shuttle, and change of name, because not everyone knows what jitney means, but I think most people would understand what shopping shuttle means. And we're going to just keep the shopping shuttle the shopping shuttle. Right now, I think it's been a mixture of some people get on and get dropped off at appointments, others are at shopping venues. We're going to kind of separate that, and the shopping shuttle is just for the shopping, and the appointments are just for the appointments. So we'll have communication about that when it comes out. Yeah, that's the best answer I have on the branding on the vehicles right now, but it's coming. Yes, ma'am.
What is this shopping shuttle going to be? Just a small van that can only carry about 3 people that go shopping?
Yeah, what size van is
You
that,
used to have a
Ashley?
bus, and you could have 5 or 6 people going
Right,
to the store.
right. Which van have you guys been using, or bus?
They've been using the van because they only can take 3 people at a time
Because of the social
because of the
distancing.
social distancing.
Yeah. Ultimately, it will be a bigger bus. It'll also depend on the demand too. If I only have 2 or 3 people going, then we could take a smaller vehicle.
Well, right now, they're shopping at Acme and everything can come in, but when things get back to normal, there's a lot of people here that would like to get that bus again.
Yeah, and we will when we can accommodate enough. The question is, will we have the larger bus for the shopping shuttles? And the answer is yes. We'll have that once we get there. With the social distancing, we're only allowed a certain amount of people on the vehicle, so it kind of limits us anyway. But yeah, and we've been talking about how it could work, and there's kind of a destination where Walmart and Giant and Dollar Store are. And then there's kind of another destination on the other side of town where Harris Teeter, Acme and Weiss are over there. And so we may do one shuttle, on one day a week to the one destination, and the other day of the week we go to the other destination. So, all right, any other questions? Yes?
Are there any plans to build a swimming pool?
The question is, are there plans to build a swimming pool? So the answer is yes, but I don't have concrete plans. So there is in progress right now a master plan. And people have heard me say this, and I've said all along, it could take a year to get our master plan completed. It's a big process. There's a lot of questions and a lot of money to be answered, and so we want to do it right, and it takes time. And COVID kind of put a pause on a lot of that planning, but I can tell you that the plans are re-engaged and are actively in process. There's a meeting this week, I believe, about some of this. Part of what will be in the master plan when we get it will be a clubhouse that will include a pool. Now, where would that pool go? Where would that clubhouse go? I don't know. That's part of what the planning is. There's been concepts, there's been revisions, and it's kind of in that process right now. I've seen a glimpse of it. I'm really not involved in the process. At some point when it gets to be something more concrete, I can't wait to show it to all of you, but we're not there yet. But yes, a pool will be included. All of our Axe communities pretty much have pools. And a point about pools, and I could say a point about any amenity. I've often seen someone raise their hand and say, you know what, that's a waste of money. No one's in the pool. We don't need the pool. Why do we have a pool? And those are people who don't use pools, which is fine. But there are plenty of people who do use pools. So every amenity isn't for every person, and that's why we are going to be building more amenities here. That's why we have options. So.
Well, we originally applied at Heron Point because of the pool.
Yeah.
And also because of a friend of mine, but,
Yeah, it's coming.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It may be a year plus, but it's coming. Yeah.
George,
Yes.
do they still have anything in place, for going to the Y?
So,
I used to go quite regularly. I've been tied up and not been able to do that.
mhm.
And they did have a group from here that came to the, not the cold water, the warm water, pool.
The question is, are the transportation to the Y to use some of those amenities, like the pool, that's where our residents currently go use a pool, is at the Y. Is that available?
Lisa told me the pool wasn't up.
Yeah, I don't think that they're open yet. That's what I was about to say. The last I heard, they weren't open yet. When they do reopen, yes, we will start that up again.
Good.
Any other questions? If you think of something later, you can ask me later. Well, thank you for listening to this fireside chat. If you do have further questions, I'm always available. Please reach out to me. Thank you.